this thing on?
We're talking about practice, man.
Yeah, I work with my hands.
It's a misdemeanor in 27 states.
You gotta be comfortable with your co-host in this amount of space.
Yeah, I can see me and you.
This guy runs a state.
You get that through your head?
You just got hashtag content.
You know, technology and stuff.
Open your grill. It's stuck in your teeth.
Now I have to mark them so I don't get the lick mite.
You're not really that stupid, are you?
Quavos.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
We'd have a lot of editing this time.
The ceiling is the roof. Let's make it happen.
TBD's so hot we knocked the power out in the Tri-County area. Wait, we don't live in the Tri-County area.
When we got the lights back going, Eric Fawcett of Press Basketball joined us from north of the border to bring us into this NBA season.
FOTS Esquire Matt Hauswirth also joining the program to talk Syracuse's monster win over the Clemson Tigers.
To round out the guest trifecta, Frank Mucci, our resident expert in all things smooth and sultry, uttered about craft cocktails.
TBD. To be determined, episode 33, previously recorded from the studio in Mom's basement.
Three. What? No, I wanted to keep chanting. I'm a big chanter, but it's really only the 2 3s. 33.
Larry Bird, baby.
Look at you off the top
Bringing
of the block.
it back, right?
Hey, I'm okay. I was just say, hey, TNT back in Time Warner. I don't know what it's called now. In Rochester, that's what the TNT channel is.
Okay.
So very good reference. Thank you to me. You're welcome. Everyone listening to this can really relate.
Very relatable for the fans in Texas, Florida, California, even Pennsylvania for that matter.
I guess put some sauce on it like you do the TBD right out of the intro. I guess TNT, and then we're talking.
There it is, right there. Okay, all right. At Sports by Bond, Stephen Bond. At Travs Matt. At Scooty Minks.
Hey.
Matt Traybold.
Hey. How you doing?
Well, it took us a little while to get this one going, but when we did, boy, was it a fun one, let me tell you. Good friends of the show, as you mentioned, Eric Fawcett joining us later on in the C block. Matt Hauswirth going to join us in the next block, and Frank Mucci will round out the group in the D block. Last but certainly not least, as that was all the rails, everything just falls off the rails when we get to the D block.
Reps. These are FOTS with reps.
Yeah.
And that makes for a good ass
time. It does. Well, I don't know if we can say that, but all right.
Well, it depends what the inflection is on that, because then it can get real sketchy.
Hey, you said it, so it's there. It's out in the universe.
Sometimes you have a good ass time.
Okay.
Inflection is the spice of life.
It is. So, listen, as I said off the top of the show, we knocked out the power, and I don't know if it's the lighting here or if it was the storm. What hurricane came through here again? Was it?
I don't think it's accurate. I don't
Mario?
think you've been accurate. Mario?
Hurricane William? What was it? Which one?
You're making up
hurricane
things, I'm pretty sure.
Hit New York today? Because that's somehow we were the only neighborhood. The neighborhood that Mom's basement resides in upstate New York was the only one that lost power.
And we checked,
everyone
guys.
else around us. We drove. We were like, well, we got to go watch the Sunday night game somewhere. So
we got in the jalopy. We got out there, and a lot of lights going on. A lot of lights.
Now the one street light right near the location of the studio was out, but beyond that, everything else was lit. Literally, it was like one side of the street was lit and the other side wasn't. That's how silly this was.
So we went to an establishment.
Went to a little watering hole.
We got chips. And they were
3
good.
rounds of chips and salsa. It was spectacular. And watched the Sunday night game. So,
hey, I just wanted to see the likes of Rhett Ellison and, well, Eric Flowers is a big draft pick, but Roger Lewis Jr., Orleans Darkwa, we got to see some great SNF player introductions, which is maybe one of my favorite parts of the entire sports world. It was just a spectacle because of all the injuries they're dealing with there in New York.
It was insane. The power finally came back on about 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. We were able to get all the FOTS in. Thankfully, Eric Fawcett, 2 hours behind us, so it wasn't as big deal for him. Frank was just out and about. We were able to get Frank, and Hawes had to do the late show, so we recorded Hawes rather late in the evening, and then able to pull it all together here. So that's how we get to episode 33. Rather eventful.
You really got to give it to the FOTSes. The FOTSes? Yeah.
FOTSes.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
That F is not pluralized, so the FOTSes.
There you go. There you go.
Like I said, another one.
FOTSes.
The FOTSes?
Quickly, I do want to mention this. The Snowman movie can eat it.
This actually says "suck it"
Okay.
on the rundown.
Didn't want to actually say that, but now we can isolate it. But
It's been said already.
okay,
so
all right.
It's out there in the world.
I haven't actually seen this movie, and no offense to the
It's not
producers.
out yet, I don't think, or is it?
Maybe not. We survived Friday the 13th, and because we're in October and it's Halloween and all that stuff, I hate scary movies.
Yeah.
I don't do scary movies.
My thing is, why would you pay money to have a bad time?
Exactly. I don't get it. It sucks.
It's in the name, scary movies.
I hate
Scaring.
it.
Yeah, being scared.
But every
more so.
time I get on a website, on TV, whatever it might be, I can't get away from this stupid Snowman movie.
Now, is it inside the snowman, or what's going on here?
I
'Cause
guess
I
he
think I watched more of the
whoever
trailer.
it is builds a snowman. I don't know. I try not to. I stick my hands in my ears and I say la 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 like a little girl because I
Hey.
don't want to see it.
You and me both.
I will have nightmares.
I like having good times.
I don't want to watch that movie. It's everywhere. So get it off the TV screen for God's sakes. And listen, if you're a fan of scary movies, whatever, you do what you got to do. But as Trav says so eloquently, why would you pay to have a bad time?
Yeah, hey, if you're going to watch a trailer, watch the Red Bang trailer of Blockers. I'm going to show Steve right after the show. It's good. It's good.
Okay.
Comedy.
Very good.
A good time, some might say. I might say. And I say.
I think you did say. All right, let's get to Week 6 in the NFL. No Bills. They are on the bye. A much-needed bye early in the season,
No
which
loss
is
this
ironically enough. No loss.
Yeah.
But the Pats did get a win. There was no loss for the Pats either. They get the win in controversial fashion, I guess.
I would say so.
Over the Jets. This was an interesting game. The Jets jumped out early.
Ooh.
The Pats came back. I believe it was 14-all at the half. And then, for whatever reason, listen, I shouldn't say for whatever reason. The Pats do what they do.
Yeah.
And made the adjustments at the half. The first drive by Tom Brady, kid came out slinging the ball. Kid, old man, came out slinging the ball. Hit Brandon Cooks a number of times. Cooks looked probably, I wouldn't say his best all year, but he looked real good on that particular drive. And then we get down to later in the game, we get down to the throw to Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Already had a touchdown at that point.
Who already had a touchdown.
Yeah.
You're right. Going for a second one, it's reviewed and overturned. Initially, I believe it was ruled a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was.
And then it gets overturned. And it's controversial because it looks like the ball actually never crosses the plane.
And it was a close game.
And it was a very close game, and it was a very close call. So, of course, a close call always seems to go the Jets' way. Or, excuse me, always seems to go the Pats' way, rather. And the Jets always seem to be on the short end of that stick.
You really got to give it to Josh McCown. I'm stammering over my words because it's so flabbergasting.
Yeah.
Josh McCown getting it done. This guy's a legitimate baller quarterback, bona fide quarterback right now in this league, starting
that
for his
so
helm.
strange.
Yeah.
That sounds so strange. I'm sorry. It was just like the second you said it, it was like it doesn't seem right. Those words shouldn't go together.
Yeah, but Robbie Anderson early on, Jeremy Curley had a couple of unbelievable catches, one for a touchdown, one close to a touchdown. He came in 17 for 17 catching targets this season, but it was really the Jermaine Kearse show for a lot of the season so far coming into this one, but he gets Curley involved now. Seferian-Jenkins coming off a suspension. It's been really good the last couple weeks.
So the Pats now, I believe, are first place in the AFC East, up 4-2. So they found their way, and that was without Stephon Gilmore, and I forget the other corner who was out as well, but they were without two of their top three corners. Malcolm Butler, the only top corner in there.
Robbie Anderson had him early.
Yeah,
Woo.
yeah, he did. He definitely
Robbie.
did. The Jets are 500, which, again, I didn't
Still,
believe they
it's
would
like-
be above 500 at any point, but to still be at 500 is insane. That team won 3 games in a row. That's insane. It's silly. The Packers may not be above 500 for very long.
It's the fact that you have the injury, collarbone, I believe it was.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers breaks his collarbone, potentially out for the year. I think they're trying to do x-rays and all that jazz.
Yeah, it's always like a Monday after a game kind of deal if it's a Sunday game, obviously. And
Aaron Rodgers he covers up the blemishes for that team in a lot of ways. Jordy Nelson, obviously, is the big-time receiver there. They've got a couple of nice pieces, but the running game has struggled. That offensive line is not good. Defensively, I think they're okay. But that's not a good football team when you take Aaron Rodgers. And listen, most teams wouldn't be good if you lose the best quarterback in the league. I get that. I totally understand that. But he's like Peyton in his prime or Tom in his prime, where he'll cover up a lot of the mistakes that your football team can make. Mm-hmm. And they can't afford to do that. Now, is it the rookie that's in there now for Green Bay?
Brett Hundley, he's a few years removed from UCLA, but not a good sign. First pass after getting into this game. Now is the starter. Throws an interception. Jones, the UTEP rookie, did not look like people thought he would look after a couple of good weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
It's not looking good. And this is a Minnesota team that was dealing with plenty of injuries themselves. And these were for before the game even started. So at least they had Rodgers for a little bit, the Packers did in this one. But, I mean, Diggs and Bradford, and they're losing to this Vikings team.
Who do you like in the NFC North?
The NFC North, a lot of depends, and you're seeing headlines right now. Will Bradford ever play football again?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because of these nagging injuries.
Well, I mean, I'm not crazy and say crazy, but it's shocking to see that finally for Sammy Sleeves.
But Jerick McKinnon lost a fumble, but he was pretty good today. If he can really take reins in that job, obviously it would be good to have a two-headed monster with Latavius, but I just don't see it now. He's really showing the fact that the running back position just does not have a lot of longevity.
So you like the Vikings then?
I would say just because of that defense along with it. I mean, Harrison Smith, sack and a half today, interception. Xavier Rhodes had an interception. That defense is really good.
Okay. I would have to agree. The Bears aren't there. The Lions are interesting.
Yeah.
The Lions make things interesting. I don't know.
Stafford's either really good or really bad today.
Yeah. He's on either side of the coin.
And Abdullah took a step back again,
he
too.
He did, and not to my liking either, because I played him in fantasy. Losing in both leagues right now. Really dependent on this Monday night game.
Well,
anyway.
I'm going to have Morales this week. So.
Yeah, it's not good. I need Vinatieri to kick a lot of field goals, and I need Rashard Matthews to catch, I don't know, at least 10 balls for 120 yards and maybe a touchdown. It's not good.
Eric Decker can't get going this season, so
that's true. Maybe
we'll keep getting those balls.
I would, you know what? I'm going to take the Lions. It's an awkward statement. Sorry, I'm going to take the Lions. I was trying to just breeze right through it for you, but you paused and gave me an awkward look, so now we got to address it, but that's all right. We'll go on again. I like the Lions there, and I think it's maybe because they're the healthiest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They seem to be the healthiest right now.
Yeah. I mean,
Chicago is a disaster. Minnesota's banged up, down to your third-string quarterback in Case Keenum, and obviously you lose Aaron Rodgers, it changes the whole dynamic of that Packers team. So I think that's Detroit's conference or division to lose, rather, which is...
And the defensive line with Ziggy and Zettel.
Yeah.
The ZZ Top? I don't know.
No, interesting.
I don't think that's like a little legitimate nickname going on.
A lot of injuries this week in Week 6, as you noted, to a lot of big guys. Jameis Winston, the other one. And this is relevant because Week 7, I believe the Bills host Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken. Is that one in Buffalo? Okay.
Yes, they do. It's in Buffalo. And it's going to be Tampa-like weather.
It's going to be Tampa-like weather in Buffalo. Which is not good. Travis doesn't like the hot weather.
I don't.
It's a fact.
I'm wearing all black right now, so a lot of this is on me.
With these bright studio lights we've got here. It's not good. Not good. There's a chance we see Ryan Fitzpatrick again in Buffalo. I believe he was there with Houston a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
And what's good is, he came in for Winston, and you saw receiving touchdowns from Mike Evans, from Deshaun Jackson, from Cameron Brate. Who knows? I mean, this is a guy, obviously, he's shown he can do it in this league. This is not like a Brett Hundley situation.
Right.
This is a proven guy. I don't think there's going to be too much of a drop-off. He has control of this locker room. You saw it during Hard Knocks.
Well, I think he's got respect to the guys in that room.
Yeah, definitely respect is a good way to put it.
So, Jameis hurts the shoulder, I believe it was. Had x-rays. They appeared to be negative.
So we'll see next week.
That team is... I feel like we always get suckered in by the Hard Knocks team.
Oh, I do, for sure.
And I'm the same way. That's a team I think everyone expected. Even experts expected that team to take a massive step forward and be a contender for a deep run, if not a Super Bowl appearance. And it doesn't look like that right now. It looks like they're still trying to figure things out.
And it's defense. The defense is just atrocious.
Which is surprising because they have a lot of good pieces on that defense.
I mean, you have I think not Levante David, but Quan Alexander in terms of the linebacking core having some injury issues. I know we keep talking about injuries, but this was a massive week for it. I did not think that the defense would be this bad, would be the problem.
Yeah.
And granted, Jameis Winston has shown he can be early on in this league very good, but he's still young. So you thought in terms of the comparison between the two, even though Jackson and Martin joining the fray, Martin coming off a suspension. On the other side of the ball, you thought the defense was going to be the stalwart, and it's just not there.
Chiefs finally lose, so the 72 Dolphins can pop the champagne.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Mercury?
perfect. Pitt finally getting together. Your Steelers finally putting one together.
But the thing is, so they grab this massive win, and then the headline right afterwards is Martavis Bryant is having issues in such a volatile locker room. But we're watching the game. We see Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger being nowhere near each other. And you pull up a YouTube video of these guys from one of the last few years, and they're jucking and jiving, sitting next to each other on the bench after a big play. This is like after a touchdown, and they're just not anywhere near each other.
Well,
it's bad.
That wasn't after the touch. That was after the near interception.
Yes, but still, it's something that's lingering.
Well, you'd think you'd want the two of them to be on the same page, sit down and try to get on the same page and figure out, all right, what happened on the route. That's what you would expect. But as you alluded to and as you said, this locker room is a disaster right now. Can you imagine all the talent that's in the locker room? They could finally put it together, just bury the hatchet, so to speak, and
a hatchet bury.
That's a lot of talent. That's a lot of talent in that locker room, especially on the offensive side of the football. They're just, it's not good. It's not good.
Good way to put it.
Not good. All right, the Kaepernick situation. The NFL Players Association is going to file a grievance basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the NFL is blackballing Colin Kaepernick. So this is interesting. This is an interesting twist.
I think it's a good move by DeMaurice because this is somebody that's not really attached in terms of a contract to the league right now, but he's really taken it upon himself, and someone who's had issues with Goodell recently and has seemingly not been winning these quote-unquote battles. So really putting his neck out there when he's been putting out there a lot recently and it's been going poorly, so you'd think that he'd be recoiling a little bit there.
Yep.
And this is a guy that doesn't have as big of a connection to the league as he has recently, certainly when he brought the 49ers so far in the postseason as a young guy. And it really shows that this is a guy that cares.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be as the Players Association guy as opposed to the other side that Roger is on.
Right.
It shows that he cares.
Right. You know, this is interesting. This is just a fascinating scenario. I think a lot of people have said, oh, well, Kaepernick's not good enough. He's just not good enough to play in the league. And I think there's a lot of people that feel that way, and maybe justifiably so. He didn't look good in 2016. He's spot duty, but I think he created some problems in the locker room. I think he was a bit of a distraction. And I shouldn't say a bit. He was a distraction in 2016, but he was also about the 19th best quarterback in the league that year. And he was ahead of guys like Eli Manning. And he was ahead of playoff quarterbacks. And he's taken a team to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So
as a youngin'.
As a young quarterback, he has done these things. Youngin', okay.
Sorry.
So to me, he's got more talent than guys like Brandon Whedon, who we know what he is. And the Titans called him in spot duty. And for what? For why? I mean, who is more like Marcus Mariota? Colin Kaepernick or Brandon Whedon?
I think you know the answer to that.
Okay, I'm just saying. It just that's what I don't get. I don't understand this. He has said he's going quickly. He has said is going to stand for the national anthem. So he's not even going to be the distraction that he created last year.
The term you used not long ago, where people are saying he can't play in this league, he can play in terms of at the bare bones of the definition, in terms of being able to toss a football in NFL practice, be a backup, maybe not start at this point, even though he had some starts under his belt last season, but he can play in
He's
this
better
league.
than the quarterbacks that the Niners have.
CJ Beathard, go Big Ten football.
Yeah, he's better than both of them. It's better than Hoyer and Beathard. He is.
CJ Beathard?
I would trust Colin Kaepernick with that team ahead of the two guys that are in there.
That'd be interesting having him with the Shanahan.
I mean,
what
listen,
they could conjure up.
Well, and that's the thing. I get that they want to move forward and they want to try to get their own guy in there, but you're not going to get your guy this year, so why didn't you just keep him? They basically forced him to opt out of the contract, is what I read.
When you were reading this article earlier, you mentioned the fact that let's hope this doesn't have a player strike come up.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and that's a very long debate that we could get into and a very long topic, but the long short of it is, I wonder how his fellow players, Colin Kaepernick, you wonder how his fellow players feel about him. And I think you see exactly what they think of him by how many people have decided to take knees. And this was before even the Donald Trump statement, how many players elected to raise a fist, try to be as active as they could during the national anthem. And I don't want to say active, but trying to raise awareness during the anthem. guys trying to be proactive in the community, trying to do certain things like Colin Kaepernick had done. And we know this for certain because he donated $1 million of his own to different charitable organizations. And this is a guy without a job. So the guy without a job is giving money away, is working to get back in the league, doing all the right things, working out at 4:30 in the morning, doing everything he can to try to get himself a job, and people still hate on him because he took a knee. And listen, I get why people are upset. I understand it to a certain extent. I don't agree with it, but that's my right. That's my right. Now, to your point of will it lead to a strike in 2021, the reason I say that is I think the players in general want to be paid more. They see the contracts that baseball gets. They obviously have seen the contracts that the NBA has gotten. Exactly. And they say, we're the most popular sport on the planet. Why are we paid like it? Why are we not paid like it? And listen, you'll never be paid what those guys are paid because there's 12 basketball players and there's 53 guys on a roster. But to get closer to that, to at least close the gap a little bit, would be better for the NFL. I think they'll look at that. They'll look at how the owners have reacted to Colin Kaepernick and how he was treated and think, man, that could be me. If I want to voice an opinion, if I want to be a human being, if I want to be an American and voice my opinion and use my rights, I'm going to be blackballed from the league. I'm going to be blackballed from my team, whatever it might be. And that's how you start down that path, is a number of guys start to think it, and then we have the issue of the dollars. They don't really trust the owners. They see it as the billion-dollar boy club, and that's how you get, in a very small way, Colin Kaepernick becomes the match to the greater fire.
To get closer to these contracts that you're seeing in the NBA right now, it needs to be a joint force from the Players Association and the players themselves. I would like to see a win for DeMaurice Smith because, like I said a second ago, he's not getting that. You just hope, because you see the numbers dwindle every week in terms of guys kneeling. It gets smaller and smaller every week. It's really only just a few teams, a quartet of teams probably right now that have guys doing it in general. You just hope that players aren't getting sick of it like you're seeing with a lot of fans. But strikes are bad.
Yeah.
I used to be a massive Colorado Avalanche fan and hockey fan in general, playing NHL fantasy leagues and whatnot. But, hey, they were really good before, I think now 2 strikes ago, the Avalanche. And then you lose Sakic and Wah and Solani and Korea. And just bad in terms of my own recollection. And that's just bad. Granted, one of the most recent NBA strikes had Blake Griffin working at Funny or Die, which was just a match made in heaven. But usually they're bad. Let's not have it happen here, guys.
Giants get the win. They are now off the schneid. Is Ben McAdoo off the hot seat?
It must be hot because his hair is very wet.
It's been wet the entire year, which is a problem. He's got to go back to the mid part.
Benny Suave.
Golly, it's just that team is a disaster.
The mid part is magnificent. I love it.
Al Michaels also has a gaffe during the game where he compared the Giants' injury-prone season to the Hollywood executive Harvey Weinstein sexual harassment case. He apologizes for it, rightfully so. You hope it's not a situation where NBC would be like, all right, now we got to take the guy off the air. And I don't think it would be just because of how profitable that show is. It's the most popular television show going right now.
Yeah. And you have to give it to him the fact that, yes, he made a mistake early on, but a lot of times the apology comes after the game. This came
right during it, yeah. Yeah, kudos to him. I don't know if somebody got in his ear or whatever, but yeah, kudos to him.
With him, I would think it didn't happen.
He's aware. Yeah, we'll never know, but you hope.
We won't know for sure.
But you hope. All right.
I'll make some calls.
Wanted to add one in quickly, Trabs, if I could. Dodgers beat the Cubs 4-1. L.A. now up 2-0.
It's a big thing. And Rich Hill, it's good that his side got the win in this one because he was looking pretty distraught at times. This is a guy this season was never expected to really do what he's done. I know, hey, as a Pirates fan, the guy throwing no-hitters and getting close. Justin Turner.
That's my new favorite baseball player, I think.
I know, and I'm like Justin Turner light in terms of the red beard.
Yeah, I was going to say junior, but light's good too.
L-I-T-E?
I really would like to see you get to Justin Turner status with the red beard.
I don't know, because his is much more red.
Yes.
And I just can't grow it like you can. I think I'm at my peak.
How long is the current... What's the length, first of all? Do we know? It's got to be at least an inch and a half.
Really?
I would say it's an inch and a half. How long have you been growing this?
I'm embarrassed to talk.
Okay, all right. Some
Justin
month,
Turner.
or is it months, weeks? What are we in?
Oh, it's months.
Okay, months.
Because it takes a while for me to grow anything.
Okay, all right.
Justin Turner, he was bad. He was just bad in the Metropolitans. He is a superstar. He ties this
good
game.
now. Yeah.
Justin Turner.
4-1. Are the Cubbies in trouble?
They've had some difficult moments in this postseason already, and they've just shown that.
Hey, I thought they were in trouble against the Nats, and turns out they can win 3 in a row. So
And they've
I guess
shown
not.
that, yes, this postseason success hasn't gone on for a lot of years in a row now, but it's still really fresh if you're looking at it at a smaller number. Happened last year. A lot of those same guys are here.
All right, Sabres win out. Win. Sabres grind out their first win, not win out. They grind out their first win.
They won that. They won that ish out, man.
Listen, they have a 4-game. They're in the midst of it. A 4-game road trip. That was delicious sounding. 4-game road trip that started with San Jose. Was a loss.
Yeah,
they gave
against
San
two winless.
Jose their first win. They lost to L.A. Out of all the teams they played, I thought the definite L was Sunday night against Anaheim. Turns out they beat Anaheim.
The contender for the Cup.
It was insane. That team should be. That team is a legitimate Cup contender. They've got some nice young pieces. They've obviously got the experience out there. They had Ryan Miller, who's not, he's on the tail end of his career, but still.
How dare you?
He can be a serviceable backup.
Yeah.
2 greasy goals by the Sabres. They get the empty netter to make it 3-1, but 2 real greasy goals. And I think this is the combination that the Sabres need. You need great defense on the road. This is the road formula. Great defense on the road. Greasy goals are going to win, and you need very good goaltending. And that's what Chad Johnson was tonight. Chad Johnson was very, very good. Number of good glove saves. Had the one save, I don't remember which period it was, where he had to pinch the puck basically against the post. He was laying down on his stomach. Chaos in front of the net. This was the perfect formula. Greasy goals, good defensive work, and a very, very, very good goaltender in net.
Buffalo is a grit city. I think they're going to love and really stand behind a team that has, like you say, greasy goals, grit goals. Yes, they're going to want to see Jack Eichel have just the sauciest of sauce.
The dangles.
Yeah, just drip some Prego on it. But I think they are plenty okay, especially for a team looking for their first win, if the goals come with grit. And Justin Bailey just came up from the Rochester Americans.
Gets the goal.
He played 9.5 minutes, and he scored. He had 3 shots. And that was the greasy goal.
That was.
I don't know how. I think it was actually greased up. I don't know how it made its way under people.
It went right under the goalie. Right underneath the goalie. It was insane. It was a very greasy goal. But that's how you're going to have to do it if you're the Sabres. Now they go and play Vegas. So if you download this on like Thursday, we already know the results. So, oops. But Vegas is a very good team. Vegas.
But you have some injury issues right now for MAF, Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury could be going to injured reserve potentially, so that's not good. That's not good for that team. He is the franchise at this point.
Yeah.
He is the franchise.
And he's a little scamp.
He is.
He's been showing that, becoming viral with some tomfoolery.
He has. All right, let's get some bump music in. Around the corner, Syracuse somehow beating Clemson at home on a Friday night. Number 2 Clemson. Biggest win in program history since. Matt Hauswirth will answer the question, and we'll find out just when Dino's going to leave town. That question to be answered next on To Be Determined.
This is where we say the words when we come back from break, just to kind of transition pretty well. That's called meta. This is called To Be Determined. Hey, we're back.
Look at you. What a professional this man is. That's a professional segue.
I think it sounds pretty psychotic if you ask me. But as long as you say it's positive, I like it.
Listen, you got to support the team here, and you're a crucial member of the team. Okay, you're literally 50% of this thing. All right, reporter guest time. We welcome in. What's the FOTS Esquire? Was that the nickname for Haus?
Yes, it is.
All right, FOTS Esquire. Matt Hauswirth of CNY Central. You can find him on the web at @MattHaus_CNY. Sports anchor, reporter for the fine folks at CNY Central here in Syracuse. Haus, what's up, kid?
Hey, how are you?
It's a late one tonight.
Just on not too long ago. Let's make this a weekly thing.
This kid's going to work his way into being a third of the podcast here, but that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Haus obviously covers everything Syracuse being posted up in the Salt City and whatnot. So we bring Haus on whenever there's crazy SU news. Haus not scheduled this week, but after Friday's game, we had to call him up, and of course the kid never turns me down because every time he comes over, I give him a beer or two, and that's the compensation. So, so he owed us one, is the way I like to look at it.
Hey, the marketplace is the trade of goods and or services.
Yeah.
You go goods,
bartering.
He's going
is it
services
bartering?
right now.
Is that the?
Yeah, I don't think I had the right terminology. I'm pretty sure of that. But
marketing at its finest.
All right, brother. Listen, I said earlier this year that this team was going to win one game. We're obviously well past that. This team, we talked about it on the Friday show. This was a 23-point spread, and it even went up another half a point. The Vegas guys even gave Syracuse another half point. All right? Is this the biggest regular season win in Syracuse football program history?
I would say it's really darn close. I would say if you were to ask my father, who is 61 years old and was at the Carrier Dome when they beat number 1 Nebraska in 1984,
okay.
I think he'd like to tell you that was the biggest win. But, I would say those two are neck and neck. Nobody saw this coming. You see Clemson, they go on the road at Virginia Tech on a Saturday night game day there. They just controlled the Hokies. They go on the road to Louisville, another college game day game Saturday night. They control Lamar Jackson in Louisville. This is a seasoned team that goes on the road and just beats the hell out of you. And they couldn't do that to Syracuse, which there's something needs to be said about them. That is just incredible. Now, on the flip side, I think with all this immediate success, Dino Babers is going to see his profile and his stock go through the roof. And when there's some high-profile openings this offseason, he will be on the short list of getting a phone call. I think, some people around here might be starting to think of that. But, that's up to John Wildhack and the powers that be at SU to hammer out a deal, get him paid, and keep him here for a while. But getting back to this win, it was one of those games that, you'll just remember forever. You'll remember where you were. You'll remember when you first heard the news. And it's just, it's one of the most improbable events, I think, any of us who grew up here in Syracuse or upstate New York for that matter, nobody expected this to happen, but it did, and Syracuse football is now back on the national radar.
I'm going to keep this next question very simple. How?
It's journalism right there. That's what a Penn State degree gets you, brother. I love it.
One-word questions.
But very relevant.
That is the $1 million question. But I think, a big deal played into it that it wasn't quite sold out, but 42,000 fans in a stadium that holds about 50, that gets loud. Could you imagine if there were actually 50,000 fans in there? You wouldn't be able to hear yourself think.
Yeah.
And Dino Babers came back to that in his press conference. He said, "Hey, this is the reason I came to Syracuse. He had other offers to go elsewhere, but he knew the home field advantage at the Carrier Dome was so great. It was much better than every other school that was coming at him, that was offering their head coaching job to him. Mm-hmm. He knew if he was able to build this program and get that place packed, then nobody would be able to beat them inside the Carrier Dome. I think we all saw firsthand, if they get that place packed, if people start to become interested in Syracuse football again, this is what can happen on a regular basis. Yeah. And, it's been so long since we've gotten to this point. God, we were talking about it when we previewed the season. Syracuse football hasn't been relevant to anybody or anything in the last, 10, 12, 15 years? It's been such a long time. With that said, I think the reason this win occurred was A, because of the fans, and B, because of Clemson's quarterback going down. That was huge.
Yeah.
And we saw this kid has matured quickly, Kelly Bryant. He's been amazing, stepping in for Deshaun Watson, who, oh, by the way, is doing his own thing in Houston. He's incredible. But, this quarterback is a young pup. He comes in, he's throwing touchdown passes everywhere. It seems like Deshaun Watson wasn't even there. I mean, people almost forgot about him. It's something needs to be said about what the defense was able to do flying around. And Eric Dungy, he took some mega hits, and he was able to get back up and lead the offense. It was really just a team effort. But if I had to pinpoint one thing, the fans were awesome.
That's cool. And listen, there's a reason they call it the Loud House, I guess. And
the sound doesn't go anywhere.
It's a massive concrete building. It just bounces off on it.
It comes right back at you.
It does. All right, Haus. Listen, I didn't have high expectations for this team. I don't think I was crazy in that. Maybe one win was insane, but I realistically saw that path for this team. They have obviously made me look like a fool here, and rightfully so. This team now just 2 wins away from qualifying for a bowl. Do you see 2 wins on the remainder of their schedule?
Oh, yeah. I mean, seems like they can absolutely get 2 more at home. Their only 2 home games remaining are against Wake Forest and Boston College. Those are winnable games. I mean, if you're beating Clemson, then those 2 are winnable games.
That's a good way to put it.
Valid point.
But then again, you never know. I mean, Boston College went on the road and just beat Louisville this past week. So Louisville suddenly looks beatable. And they're not having quite the season they were having last year. Lamar Jackson isn't having quite the season he had last year. So that suddenly becomes winnable. I think this weekend's game against Miami is going to be very difficult. Miami coming off, an emotional win over Georgia Tech where they got a field goal at the end. It was pouring rain out there. I think if Miami were to lose that game coming into this one, their sense of urgency would be through the roof. And coming off the emotional win Syracuse had, they could have a letdown at Miami. I think a lot of people are starting to think of that. But, you look at this Syracuse team on the road. They gave LSU a battle. They gave NC State a battle. Yeah. Who's to say they won't give Miami a battle? Then again, are they going to come out on top? I don't really know. But I think they're going to give Miami a game. And remember, these are 2 old Big East rivals. I know, Steve, you remember going to games back in the day. Willis McGahee and Ken Dorsey. I mean, these Miami teams were awesome.
They were insanely one-sided, too. So this one probably won't. Listen, on paper, it doesn't look as insanely one-sided because the U isn't what the U was. But you're right. I mean, it's still a good football team in Miami. And the reality of the situation is, based on what they did against Clemson, they have a chance to beat them, which I didn't think was possible. 7 weeks ago. Where do we stand now? So it's just insane.
Does the orange passing attack deserve to be recognized among the best in the country?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would say Steve Ishmael and Irv Phillips are about as good of a 1-2 punch as it gets in college football. And, obviously with the whole air raid and passing attack and, with the no huddle and how the game's progressed at the college level, that's saying something because almost every team at the college level is running this offense now. And when you've got, 2 guys that Dino Babers didn't even recruit, he just saw them and was like, hey, we're going to look at you as clay. I'm going to mold you into the player I want you to be and go out there and do it. And they're doing it. I mean, it's unbelievable how, it seems like he almost, virtually sprinkles some magical dust on them, and then all of a sudden they become the best receivers in the game. But, Steve Ishmael is such a competitor. I actually did a sit-down interview with him 2 weeks ago. And, interviewing Zaire Franklin, senior linebacker, he was telling me Steve doesn't even like losing in video games. I mean, he gets angry, he gets upset, he won't talk to you for a week if he loses. Wow. So, this is a guy who's extremely competitive. Irv Phillips is another just speedster, a smaller guy who just, can get around guys. And Eric Dungy has just really stepped his game up. I mean, that was the key we've all said from day one. If Eric Dungy stays healthy, this team can be so good, and he's staying healthy. And look at him. I mean, this is what can happen. This passing attack is. I'm not incredibly surprised by how productive they've been, but I think a lot of people around the country are because they look at the statistical categories and they see receptions per game. Steve Ishmael is at the top nationally. Yeah. They look at total yards. Receiving yards. Steve Ishmael, number 2 in the nation. They look at receiving touchdowns. Steve Ishmael and Irv Phillips in the top 25. I mean, these guys are up there, and it really all is on Dino Babers. I mean, that's just how good of a coach he is.
And it's so funny because we were all wondering at the beginning of the year who, if anyone, could replace Amba Editawu, and it turns out you got 2. It was just that's the way you want it
Two
to
of them
happen.
things.
Two of them things. I mean,
Yeah, two.
All right, let's move to the rushing attack quickly. I've been critical of it because they simply just don't have a run game at this point. Dante Strickland getting better. I think the past 2 games he's looked better running the football. I think they've tried to get him involved more. How do the Orange improve the run game? How do you get Strickland to over 100 yards?
I think we saw Strickland make some moves in the open field. I mean, this is a guy who's elusive. He can be a good running back. I think a lot of it does fall on the shoulders of the offensive line. They've got to get a push.
Yeah.
And they had a redshirt junior who got injured in training camp, out for the season. So there's an upperclassman out there. I believe they're starting 2 freshmen on that offensive line right now. So They're young. They do have a couple of seniors out there as well. So there's some extreme inexperience and some extreme experience. And it needs to just get molded together. I don't think it's all on Dante Strickland. I think he is a decent player. I mean, he was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school in New Jersey. A lot of big programs were looking at him. I think he's a good player. I think they just need to get a push. With that said, a lot of the games so far this season, Eric Dungy has carried the load in the rushing department. And we all said before the year, Dungy can't run as much as he has been because he gets hurt that way. But he's still doing it. You can't take it out of him. I mean, that's just who he is. He likes to run the football. If he looks at his first option, if he doesn't see it, he just tucks it and goes. And that's more power to him. I mean, he can gain a substantial amount of yards that way. But I think it really comes down to the offensive line getting a push, and that's the best way you can do it. How they do that's going to be the big question moving forward with the 5 games remaining in the regular season, and they got to win 2 to get to that bowl game.
Dino now 8-11 in his time on the SU Hill. You mentioned earlier off the top that really increases his value as a coach. Do you think Syracuse will be willing to pony up to keep Dino if necessary?
They're going to have to. There's really no option at this point. But, there are schools out there that got deeper pockets than Syracuse, that have better facilities than Syracuse, that have more fan support than Syracuse. At the end of the day, does all of that trump being in Syracuse, in Central New York? I think, that's a question only Dino Babers can answer. But I will say one thing. Actually, I ran the soundbite in the news tonight. He gave about a 45-second response to how much he enjoys being in Central New York, being at Syracuse University, being in front of these fans, and being the face of this program. And he said he absolutely loves it. This is a guy who was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. Not really accustomed to these winters up here.
It's a little different here.
And he said, obviously we all know winters are coming and we're going to stay inside. But spring, summer, fall, it's beautiful up here. You can't beat it. And he said tonight is a prime example, Friday night, prime example of what this program can be, what they can do, the wins they can gain, the notoriety they can gain, the amount of fans they can get packed inside that place, and ultimately the amount of support they can get for that program. That's something that's been lacking for so long. Dino Babers is going to gain a lot of attention in the offseason. I mean, this is a guy who clearly gets it. I mean, that's literally all you need to say. He understands how to be a head coach. He understands how to get the best out of his players. Yeah, it doesn't always come up on the wins and losses. You look at the first 2 years, he doesn't have, he has more losses than wins, but he's trying to turn around a program. You could see the culture changing. I mean, they just beat Clemson. That's incredible. So with that said, I think a school like Tennessee, who's probably going to get rid of Butch Jones here in the offseason, they could come calling.
SEC
How do you say no to an SEC school? Texas A&M, they've been flirting with the idea of getting rid of Kevin Sumlin. How do you say no to them? His daughter plays volleyball at Texas A&M. How do you say no to that? There's going to be some interest out there. With that said, I think, I think he really has established something with this team, with this program, with this community. But money talks. So we'll see what happens.
Well, that's the thing, Haus. This is what I want to know. Is it all about the dollars with Dino? Or is it a matter of, and listen, I don't think it's all on Dino's shoulders to pack the dome. I think that has a lot to do with John Wildhack. I think that's got a lot to do with the marketing department. I think it's got a lot to do with the SU Hill. There's a lot of people up on that hill that just think, well, hey, listen, we're Syracuse, so you're going to show up because we're the only game in town. They don't really go out and, I don't think, aggressively market this new team and this new coach to the surrounding areas. and I mean the greater Syracuse area. Listen, I know they do that no huddle tour thing, but that's really for big donors of the program. I mean, those aren't the guys that are coming and sitting in the 300 levels of the dome. That's as plain as day. I don't think this school has done enough because I think they've relied on the fact that we've sent Donovan McNabb to be a number 2 overall pick. We've sent Justin Pugh as a first round pick. We have guys in the NFL before. We fall on Floyd Little and Jim Brown's coattails, so to speak. This program and this institution really hasn't done enough to raise awareness. I don't think it's all on Dino because Dino's doing his part right now. You get a win against Clemson, that's doing his part.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely
the
is.
Point to this rant, I think, is are dollars enough to keep Dino here, or is he going to need 50,000 in the dome consistently to quote feel the love?
Yeah, well, I think it doesn't matter who you are. If you're going to get paid a substantial amount more money than you're getting paid already, you're going to listen, and you're going to take a tour of the place, and you're going to talk with everybody.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Sure.
Dino Babers can say whatever he wants to say. With that said, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because there is still 5 games in the regular season. If he loses all 5 of these games, then we're not talking about this anymore. But at the same time,
valid point.
At the same time, you go and beat Clemson, that's going to open everybody's eyes. So I think, they built the Ensley Athletic Center, a brand new indoor facility that's beautiful. I would say it rivals a lot of the indoor facilities across the country. Mm-hmm. It was something that Doug Marrone really wanted when he was here, but they wouldn't give it to him. All he did was take his team to 3 bowl games and won all 3 of them. And finally, after he left, they finally got it built. Things started to move. You could see things changing with this program. And I'm in the football wing every week interviewing these players, and things look really nice. I mean, the auditorium's beautiful. Things look really nice. You could tell they're kind of trying with this program. They're trying to revamp it. Mm-hmm. And, for so long, it's been all about basketball.
Yeah.
It's been, who cares about football? They're going to lose. No one's going to go to the games. But Dino Babers is commanding that attention again, demanding it, saying, hey, we're here too. We're going to beat the number 2 team in the country, and you're going to like it. So I think the money is going to be there. The big question is going to be, does he lunge toward that, or does he want to finish what he starts here? What I say to a lot of people is he's not from Syracuse. He doesn't have ties here.
Right.
And guys like that don't typically stay here forever. But I think this is a genuine guy. He's very authentic. And I think he truly does want to see this program develop into what he thinks it can be. And that took a big step forward on Friday night.
One last quick one with Dino. Every time this guy talks, I hear one of the best things I've ever heard. It happened again this time around with the neener, neener, neener quote. So what is the best soundbite you have heard from Dino Babers since he's joined the Orange?
Oh, man, there's a lot. He told me once, well, this was an actual soundbite, but right after the interview during fall camp, he told me, he's like, hey, where do I get he's like, that's a nice polo. Where do I get a polo like that? He was pointing at me, and I'm like, it was just like a Nike polo from Marshall. I was like, wait, I don't want to tell him that I shop at Marshall's. Like, this is a millionaire right here,
He's probably looking to save some money,
He's like, oh, that's a nice color. I'm like, well, if I find one, I'll get one for you. He's like, all right, make sure it's double XL. I'm like, oh, okay.
Of course.
So, but, there's so many. I mean, this is a guy who is just a soundbite machine, and he's such a stark contrast from covering Jim Boeheim, who just seems to be moody and just not happy and get away from me. I don't want to talk to the media. And you talk to Dino, and it's just like, oh,
it's
God,
refreshing.
This is what coaches can be like.
Yes.
But, it's, there's one thing that stuck with me when he first started, and this was a soundbite that he's has said constantly throughout his press conferences. He says, hey, don't judge us while the cake is still baking. It's still in the oven. Wait for the cake to be finished. It's still in the oven. We got it at 425 degrees. It's cooking as high as it can right now, but don't tell me that it tastes good when it's still cooking. He says it all the time.
Wow.
So I think now, coming into tomorrow's press conference at 11:30 a.m. on Monday, I think one of the first questions will be like, well, can we finally taste that cake that you're baking now that you beat Clemson?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a really interesting. This is a guy who he kills it with the words. I mean, he's so good.
But he follows it up with the actions too.
He does.
And he gets the team ready. I mean, listen, Trabs and I know because we covered Rex Ryan for the 2 years he was in Buffalo.
Oh, very similar. You're right.
Empty word. He's great great in front of the camera, but it's all empty promises.
Yeah.
Winning the offseason, Stephon Gilmore's going to be the best corner in the league.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of stuff. We've seen that before. Now, I'm not saying that Rex obviously has a Super Bowl ring. The guy made it to the NFL. But you have all the makings in Dino of a big-time, at the very least, big-time D1 college coach.
Mm-hmm.
The personality, the scheme, he has a contagious personality. And I met him once, and you wanted to just stay with the guy and talk to him. He has that type of personality where, again, I go back to the point of, is it Dino's job to get people to the Dome? Partially. But he can do that, and he can do it through the sound bites that you're going to show on the news, that you're going to hear on the radio, in pregame stuff, whatever it might be. He's got that. He absolutely does. We got ahead of ourselves with the Dino talk, but you know what? It's a storyline that emerges because in Syracuse, you're used to having a football coach. I want to tread lightly here. Make promises and then get out of town. Or the school not follow through when they make Scott Schaefer the head coach because they just settle because they don't really want to bring in and spend the money on the football program.
Right.
Wild Hack's going to have himself a decision. Do I want to pony up? Do I want to invest in this football program? Like you said, they've done kind of behind the scenes, which is interesting to note. Because I don't think a lot of people understand that. They may hear Ensley Center, but I don't think they get what it actually is.
Yeah.
They don't understand the conference room and all that stuff, and I've been in that conference room a couple times, and it's really nice. It's as nice as you're going to see across the country. These are all important things to building a program. One of the last and most important pieces is a head coach and a guy that can recruit. And guess what? You have that in Dino. You found him.
Yeah.
And you know what? John Wildhack didn't have to find him. That's the ironic part. It was the guy that left for Minnesota, whatever the heck his name was.
Mark Coyle.
There we go, Coyle. I remember Coyle. That was an insane year. Just silly. Absolutely silly. All right, Haus. Where can we find your stuff? Where can we read you? We'll pump you up as best as we can here, brother.
Yeah. On Facebook, Matt Hauswirth, CNY Central. I post a lot of stuff to my work Facebook account. And then on Twitter, as you mentioned before all this, it was Matt Haus _CNY.
Just back it up 20 minutes ago and you'll...
No, but like you said, I mean, this is really just... It's an emerging topic because this is a coach that we're seeing blossom in front of our very eyes. Mm-hmm. And whether he stays here for the long term, I think that's up to the powers that be at Syracuse, and I sure hope so, because this is a unique football coach who has the entire skill set to turn this program into a winner. And we want to get back to that point where we see College Game Day coming to the Carrier
Seriously,
Dome. When we see top 10 showdowns every week. I mean, that's what we grew up on. We want to see that again.
No doubt. Matt Hauswirth, the CNY Central. You can find him on Twitter at MattHaus_CNY. We appreciate the time, my man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, bump music in. Around the corner, we're going FOTS to FOTS. Eric Fawcett of Press Basketball going to join us. We're going to talk some NBA stuff. Trabs came up with the questions this time for Mr. Fawcett, so I may fumble a few of these. Because Trabs, you got a different language, my man.
The vernacular.
It's a different vernacular for sure. He may have said something inappropriate. All right, TBD rolling on.
I'm going to keep it simple, guys. It's fall. Let's talk about ball. Back here, to be determined.
Very nice. At Sports by Bond with @Trabs. Matt, pleased to welcome in a recurring FOTS, one Eric Fawcett. And again, I forgot the Twitter handle and the pre-production stuff, but remembered it off the top of my head, @eFawcett7.
Look at that.
God, every once in a while I get him. Eric, thanks for joining us, my man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's like you said, it's the time of year to talk basketball. So I'm super excited, just like you guys are.
It's back, and for the video version, again, when I get to editing these stupid things, because they take me forever. The last time we had Eric on, he told the phenomenal story of finding the Carmelo Anthony jersey in, what's the secondhand store, the thrift store up there? I forgot the name of it.
It's called Value Village.
Okay, all right.
That's American as well.
So Eric, on point, wearing the Mellow jersey, the Syracuse Mellow jersey again tonight, or for the first time, I should say, as he mentioned it last time. That was the first time we started naming episodes, too, and it was all because of the line you dropped is what sparked it. So we were like, you know what? That was such a good line and such a good anecdote that we had to start naming these things.
That's awesome. That's a special distinction, and I'm humbled and very proud of that. So thank you.
Oh man, that was a lot of fun. This one will, not that there's pressure, but it should be as fun is what we're assuming. All right, so the off season seemed to result in more same faces in new places, more than usual. Which new piece across the league will you be monitoring the most at the start of this NBA season?
Well, it's really hard not to say the Kyrie Irving in Boston and Isaiah Thomas going the other way, because really, when you look at all major sports, you hardly ever see two top of their conference teams trading one of their best players straight across, not quite straight across, but essentially across for each other. You just don't see it any major sports, especially the salary cap ones. You don't see the Rangers trading the Oilers their number one line centers for each other. You don't see starting pitcher. You don't see an ace for an ace. You don't see a quarterback for a quarterback. You just don't see it. But here we saw point guard for point guard. Guys that are in the top 10 of scoring, maybe top 10 at their position. You just don't see that very often anymore. And I love it because it's cool to see basketball trades now. Every trade nowadays, everything is attached to what is their cap hit, cash considerations, the rights to a Greek guy drafted in 2009. It's just you don't skill basketball trades anymore, and we actually saw one. So it's going to be really interesting to see that one. It's hard to say anything, but those two guys on their new teams.
Yeah, poor Chuck Woodaberry Madua Boom. He keeps moving around. He has never been in the NBA, and his rights keep moving. It's too bad.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing they don't give me an NBA ballot for an All-Star, because I think I'd give cash considerations third team vote. He seems to be making his way around the league.
A Titan. The Warriors currently have 5 to 8 odds to win the title this season. Which teams in the Western Conference have the best shot of dethroning them?
I really like Oklahoma City. I'm going to. There's kind of a philosophy that I've kind of embraced as I've looked at the numbers, and depth is really great. Depth is cool. People love to talk depth, and there's certainly something to it. But when you really look at basketball games, the majority of them are within 3 or 4 possessions in the last 8 minutes, and that's when your starters come in. And Oklahoma City is going to be able to put out one of the best starting fives or closing fives. When you roll out your best 5 players at the end of the game, which everyone does, they have a great 5. And not only do they have a great 5, but they have guys that play really well when the game slows down, because that's where Melo really plays well, and he hasn't had an opportunity to do that because he hasn't been on great teams. And you could say that it's his fault the teams haven't been great, but I don't fully agree with that. And then you have Paul George as well, who is another mismatch kind of nightmare. So when they come down the floor in clutch time and they have the potential for a great point guard mismatch with Russell Westbrook on someone who's not as athletic, or Melo on someone in the post who can't guard his quick first step from the high post, or Paul George who can shoot over anyone because he's 5 inches taller. Like, I think they're going to be able to close games and do really well in those games that are decided in less than in less than 3 points or less than 2 possessions or something like that, and that's going to get them a good seed, and then it's going to make them really successful in the playoffs. So I really think Oklahoma City is probably the best matchup for the Warriors, and also just the second best team in the West.
Hey, I like that, so long as they have Melo. I just follow Melo. That's the only thing. Until he retires, then I'll finally probably pick a team, unless we get some other Syracuse kid up there. But anyway, I forgot to mention this off the top. You can find Eric's words at Press Basketball. Is it contributor, writer? What's the title?
I'm a contributor there,
okay.
And I will tease something on your show, but tomorrow I will be making another announcement.
Okay, ooh, look at this.
As to quite a large change in what I'll be writing at.
Very nice.
So, yeah, I won't, unfortunately, won't be able to say here, but
it's all right.
But stay tuned.
Hey, that's just enough. That's just wet the whistle enough.
And also a Twitter Titan.
Yes, very true.
Twitter
It's very
Titan,
true.
guys.
Very true. All right, we talked about the West. Let's move to the East, and in particular with Cleveland. Did Cleveland do enough this offseason? We mentioned the trade already, but did they do enough to again reach the NBA Finals and furthermore maybe knock off Golden State in that series if it does shake out that way?
Yeah, it's still their spot to lose, and something that I thought they really needed was more ball handlers. Their second unit especially had so many just stand and shoot 3-point guys that didn't really defend the ball very well, but they didn't really have any ball handlers to get those guys in positions, because you can roll out as many shooters as you want, as many 40+% 3-point shooters, but if you don't have someone to get them the ball, which they didn't have a great ball handler on the second unit, especially when you're putting someone like a Kyle Korver at the shooting guard spot. He's just not a ball handler as your shooting guard. So to be able to get Dwayne Wade in there, I think he's a guy that's going to be able to, obviously he's a shooting guard, but really he's handled the ball a lot in his career and a lot in transition. He likes to handle the ball because he's a really good rebounding guard, and then he pushes it, and he also runs pick and rolls really well. So I know they announced that he's going to be starting, which I probably would have preferred J.R. Smith staying in that spot because Dwayne Wade could help be a ball handler with that second unit. But that's kind of a, I don't want to say underrated because it's still Dwayne Wade, but I don't think people realize how Dwayne Wade is going to be able to elevate a lot of the other guys on the team, just because these role players couldn't really play their role without a ball handler to kind of stir the drink. So I think they made a good move there, and then Jay Crowder was huge because there's one thing that was kind of a little bit of a problem with Cleveland, was that LeBron James was guarding the other team's best perimeter player all the time. Whatever the other team's best perimeter player was, or even sometimes you'd see him guarding the Steph Currys or the Damian Lillards or the other team's kind of scoring point guards. So if there was a tough defensive assignment, it was LeBron. And now you have Jay Crowder to take that role. And I think that's going to be huge, just to have LeBron not have to be primarily thinking about the other team's best player. And it'll also allow LeBron to play a little more free safety, which we kind of saw him doing in Miami, where he'd kind of sag off and play the gaps and get a lot of steals and get a lot of rebounds that way. And I think we might see a little more of Miami LeBron coming out, which is a good thing.
The Celtics, essentially an entirely new squad. You talked about them a little bit earlier. Do you think Boston can repeat as the top seed in the Eastern Conference side of that postseason bracket? And are those guys a legitimate title contender?
I am not buying stock in Boston.
Ooh, interesting.
I think that when you look at the fact that they're the top seed last year, first of all, I don't think anyone really thought that they were better than Cleveland. And that's okay. And they also only beat the Raptors by 2 games. They had 2 more wins, but the Raptors beat them 3-1 head to head. And the Raptors missed Kyle Lowry for almost 20 games. They missed DeMar DeRozan for a lot of games, and Boston was able to stay healthy. That was really good. But so just the thought that they started the offseason as the best team, I don't really agree with. And then some of the moves were okay, but I don't think they got a lot better. And I think that the one thing I just have not heard anyone talking about is how big them losing Avery Bradley is. So I'm not going to suggest he's a better player than Gordon Hayward, but he's a guy who everyone knows is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Not many people are going to argue that. But he only scored like 5 points a game less than Gordon Hayward did, and he did it really efficiently. And that just doesn't get talked about enough. As a guy who everyone knows is kind of almost an all-league level defender who only scores 5 points less than a guy who many people think is not a very good defender at all. Again, I'm not trying to say Avery Bradley is better, but the fact that they got rid of a really, really good piece in Avery Bradley and replaced it with another good piece, I think that they balance each other out a little more than, they got Gordon Hayward, that really pushes them. And then obviously you're kind of banking, if you think that Boston's going to be better, you're saying that Kyrie Irving is going to match in this career year from Isaiah Thomas. Which he could, but I don't think it's a huge step up. And then they just kind of announced how they're going to have their starting lineup, and it's going to have Jaylen Brown and it's going to have Jason Tatum. And I really like Jason Tatum, but he's still a rookie. And Jaylen Brown to me is still just kind of a guy. He's just kind of an athlete out there. And if he's your 5th starter, where that's okay. But you look at that team, they don't defend well. They score the ball pretty well, especially with those new pieces. Having an isolation guy like Kyrie Irving means you're going to have offense in a can whenever you need it. But they still don't rebound the ball well. The notion that they got so much better, and the notion that they started being ahead of teams like the Raptors or even Washington and the kind of that second tier of the East, I just don't see it myself. So I don't think they're going to contend.
That's
I could not
interesting
agree
stuff.
more about what you said about Jaylen Brown. That's a great point.
Yeah, all interesting points there. All right, let's move to the process. The Twitter account of Joel Embiid, yet again, creating all sorts of headlines over the past couple of days. He's been all over it. Jojo, one of the reasons that the 76ers are relevant again is this the year the process finally returns to the postseason. Are you buying the Sixers?
I am buying the Sixers. I'm buying Ben Simmons all the way. To have him healthy is huge. Obviously, Joel Embiid, if you even say, hey, he's going to play 45, 46 games, I still think that's going to be enough to get them maybe a 6th seed in the East. And I think JJ Redick is the perfect kind of guy to plug in there. He's going to have so much gravity. Can you imagine if he's running off screens like that Joel Embiid is setting, where no one wants to help off an Embiid screen to try to help that. But if they do, he's going to have an alley-oop, or if not, JJ Redick's going to have an open 3. And JJ Redick, he's just one of those guys that just has like a gravitational pull. Once he starts running around screens, defenders know they have to help out, and that's going to really help with the flow. Markelle Fultz has really been, I don't want to say he's been forgot about, but it's just so funny how quickly he goes from being the number one overall pick to being not the guy that's talked about as even in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. And I was all aboard the train for Markelle Fultz #1. He deserved to be drafted there, and I think he's a kind of guy who's going to be able to score right away at a pretty good level. So you had another veteran in Amir Johnson, and I just like the mix. And if you just look at the roles everyone kind of falls into on the team, it makes a lot of sense to me. So they're going to be able to win a lot of games in the regular season, and their inexperience, I think, could show in the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to show as much when they're going into Chicago and playing a team like that or some of these other basement dwellers of the East. So yeah, I think that they're a playoff team.
Which teams do you think could be the biggest pleasant surprises this season in each conference?
Pleasant surprise. I think that the Knicks are actually going to be a little bit of a pleasant surprise. I think they're a playoff team? I don't, but I really like some of the moves they made in the draft. I think they got. I love Luke Cornett. They got him, or even some from free agency as well. They did really well in free agency with these undrafted free agents. Xavier Atan-Mays is just I couldn't believe he wasn't drafted. He went and put up awesome numbers in the ACC and showed athleticism and skill and balance in his game, and I just don't know how you don't draft a guy like that. And Luke Cornett, just a 7-footer who was one of the best shooting 7-footers in college basketball, while also being a great rim protector. And Damian Dodson and a veteran, a college veteran in Nigel Hayes. They picked up a lot of these young guys that I think are really going to compete, and I think that they're just gonna show a lot of the effort we didn't see. And I think that they're going to play a lot of teams tough, and I think they're going to be losing a lot of games by 5 or 6, but where you're like, wow, they played a good basketball game. And if they come 10th or 11th in the East, and you see them really in there battling with some teams, I think that's a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely.
And in the West, I really like New Orleans. That's going to be a team that I would be kind of one of my league pass teams, and I don't think anyone else would say that. But here's why. I just really like variety in basketball. I really like contrasting styles, and that's part of the reason I really like NCAA basketball, where if you go to Virginia, they're going to slow the game to a crawl, and they're going to try to deny ball reversal. And you go to Louisiana Tech, and they're going to press you for 40 minutes and extend pressure. And you go to Syracuse, and they're going to play a 2-3 zone on you all the time. And you just see so much variety, and you don't see that in the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
But where the league is kind of going to one mold and style of play, you had New Orleans who said, hey, we're going to get two of the best bigs in the league and put them in the front court together. So they're a team that I guess I could say I'm cheering for them. I'm cheering for them to have success. And it's not just because I love those players, but I really just want big basketball to kind of have its last stand, at least. Just to show that there's different ways to play basketball, because right now it's just kind of like the blinders are on in the NBA, and you're seeing it in college too still, but but right now in the NBA there's kind of one way to play offense. You go and you screen the ball, and you screen the ball again, and then and defensively you switch everything, and you switch every ball screen, and you get as many guys that are 6'7" out there at once. And I just want to see some variety. And they're kind of weirdly constructed. They don't have wings, I guess. They have a lot of guards, and then they have this awesome front court. So they are going to look like a very different team in the NBA. Someone who doesn't even know basketball really well will be watching, Houston play and then watch New Orleans play, and they're going to see something that they can even tell is different. So I think that. I guess you asked for a pleasant surprise, and I think they'll be better than people think, because people just have forgot about them and kind of pushed them to the side because they don't care about how good your front court is, and they just see that they don't have a bunch of switchable wings and think that makes them not relevant. And I'm just pulling for them to be relevant. So I guess I'm hoping they're a pleasant surprise. More than they will, but yeah, there you go.
Got the potential for wins down there.
I love it.
I think is the idea. All right. Lastly, let's get the boldest prediction. What's your boldest prediction for this NBA campaign?
So I kind of teased it before, but with Boston. But I don't know. I'm not a big kind of hot take guy, I guess. But I think that Boston. If I say that I think Boston might finish 5th in the conference, or lower than that's going to be hot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that I think they might end up 4th or 5th. But I guess. What I really think is they are going to be a step below Cleveland and whoever else is kind of in, whether Washington is up there or Toronto, or maybe I don't know if I see Milwaukee up there, but they'll give a lot of teams trouble. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's going to be apparent that Boston is not a contender in the East. And one more thing that I think is maybe hot, but you hear it every single year from at least someone, is that I think this is actually the year that the Spurs do take a step back. They're still a playoff team. I don't think that, when I say that they're taking I don't think they're going to drop off the face of the planet and miss the playoffs, but you could pencil them into having home court in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to be a top 4 seed. And I just don't know if I think this is finally the year where kind of age and everything catches up to them. And some of these teams, obviously Houston, Oklahoma City, they kind of retooled it really well, and maybe some of these other teams in the West, like a Denver, comes in and sneaks ahead of them. I think that there's going to be this is going to be the year that we see the Spurs at kind of the bottom half of the playoffs in the West, which is funny to say that them dropping off is still going to be probably a 48, 49, 50 win team that's 6. They're going to, and then they'll probably turn it on and beat one of those really good teams in the first round of playoffs. But the step back kind of has to happen for them eventually. Every year it seems like someone says, "Hey, this is the year the Spurs aren't as good as we think," and then they still are. But I think this is finally the year.
I like both of those.
I really do.
Very bold. I would say both of them are bold.
That's what we asked.
If we asked for.
In the days of the hot take NBA world, I feel like those are so lukewarm when people are just throwing out Jokic is going to go score 40 points a game and whatever. But I'm glad you thought they were bold, and I look forward. Hopefully we can talk sometime during the season or later.
Absolutely.
And see if I'm totally wrong or what kind of trajectory we're on there.
Listen, it's on the record now, so you've spoken.
Hey, I wish more people were kept on the record when they went and fired off their hot takes.
Seriously,
I have more of those.
I have to agree with that. I like that. Let's do that.
All right, Eric Fawcett of Press Basketball. Hey, man, for now, we'll say, of Press Basketball.
Ooh.
We'll have to keep on to his Twitter. It's efawcett7. I'm sure the announcement will be eventually made over Twitter at some point as well. So,
yeah, you bet.
Keep it on there. Eric, we appreciate the time, my man. We appreciate you sticking with us through some power issues and whatnot.
Hey, hopefully that's the last of the issues, and you guys get some more great fall weather, because I hear it's beautiful in that part of the country this time of the year. So.
Not bad right now. Not bad. Hey,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it, sir. All right, around the bump music, another guest in studio this time. We're going to bring Frank Mucci back, man about town, our version of the Mooch. He's more likable. That's the way I'll put it. He's more likable. We're going to talk about some upscale drinks, little mixology, and no, we're not talking about drop shots, Travis. I'm sorry. It can't be worked into the conversation. Frank Mucci around the corner. Stay with us on TBD.
Stand by. 3. Oh, just kidding. That's acting, guys. We are still... Wait. I'm trying to think. It sounds weird, but...
You're hearing a slight echo. I think it's because of Frank's mic. Frank has the good mic, and it always gets goofed up.
But still, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it.
It's the shotgun mic. So when Frank talks, it'll sound spectacular. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Right, just like that. All right.
Now I'm used to it. Now I'm used to it. I like it.
Bro tip segment. It does. It sounds clouded, and I don't know why that is. It shouldn't be like that.
Is that how you would describe it? Clouded?
Yeah, cloud is probably not the best word.
When you guys can't get somebody for the tips, do you just give each other bro tips?
Okay. You know, Frank, we don't have problems getting guests on this
It
show.
took a second, but... no, that was good.
And I take offense to that. Okay? Yet another thing we're going to have to bleep out of you. God. Frank Mucci, our version of the Mooch, man about town.
Now, who is the Mooch?
I'm not even going to thank him for
I don't
joining
know.
us.
You mentioned that earlier, so who is the Mooch?
Yeah, you said that like it was an old cartoon character or
It's
something.
the guy that used to work for Trump that was there for like 10 days. His
Scaramucci?
Scaramucci, yeah, they called him the Mooch.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy.
Why, did you share a nickname?
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I can't borrow money. It's a joke just in and of itself. I can't do it.
What do you mean you can't borrow money?
I cannot borrow. I refuse to borrow money.
You ever taken a loan out for a car?
You know what I mean. I mean a personal, like, I'm not going to ask you for anything more than like $50.
Just because your nickname's the Mooch.
Yeah, that makes it way too easy for a lot of really awful jokes.
That's true. All right.
It'd be like if your last name was Whorehouse. You're like, oh, God.
The D block. This show is completely off the rails. First
And
the
it's the
power
D
issues.
block.
Now it's the D block. This is what happens.
Ooh.
The audio's not going to sound as good this block, but that's all right. We're going to work through it. We're going to work through it. All right, Frank, we're talking upscale drinks.
Yay.
Mixology. I didn't know really how to phrase this segment.
It's mixology.
Okay, mixology is the better way to do it.
Not a bad way to put
All
it.
right. So, what's the go-to drink we should all have ready to go when we walk into a bar?
Well, I mean, I like to shoot for like a Manhattan.
Why, though? Why a Manhattan?
You know, because they're tasty, mainly. But other than that, it's a nice drink. You can sit down. You feel cool ordering it.
Now, I'm sure there's a lot of different Manhattans you've had, a lot of different variations depending on the bar. What isn't a perfect Manhattan for
There you go. Good follow-up.
I am going to refer to the good Lord, the writings of the good Lord in the Bible. This is
It is not the Bible.
It is for me. This is the Savoy Cocktail Book. It's very old, and it's become very popular once again since everybody started getting into hardcore mixology again.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the oldest version of this from 1930. 2 dashes of maraschino, 1 pony rye whiskey, 1 wine glass vermouth, 3 dashes Angostura bitters, and 2 small lumps of ice. In reality, all that means is just a couple of shots of maraschino juice, a whiskey. A lot of people today like doing it with bourbon, and some bitters and on rocks.
Now, I didn't write this question down, but it's something I brought up to Steve earlier. What are bitters?
I have no idea.
Oh, they're just bitters.
It's just a little bitter liquid, as far as I know. I've never done any research.
He just knows. All right, Frank, I'm going to try to cut your mic in and out for our questions just so it doesn't sound so echoed. Is echoed the better way to say it? Echoed's probably the better way to say it. You're not going to hear Frank if he responds. What should a good Manhattan taste like?
Oh, I don't know how to describe like a Manhattan. It's I don't know. That's a really weird question.
All right. I've never had one, so I don't know.
It shouldn't taste like grape soda, I guess.
Okay,
That's
right.
like a summer's day and a winter's eve.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Ooh.
Dumb question, I guess. I apologize.
All right. The second written question here. We went off the rails a little bit. Are there better drinks to have, say, oh, that's a nice way you put in that, say, with commas around it, at a wedding or a work conference, or my favorite, a gala?
Trabs put in the gala part, by the way.
Huh. No, I would just suggest any wedding or nice thing, I would tend to shoot for, like, if they have a house champagne everybody's drinking or something like that, or a classic cocktail like just a martini or a Manhattan or an old fashioned, something like that. You can't go wrong with any of those. Gin and tonic even.
Yeah.
Solid enough. All right, Frank, speaking of martinis, shaken or stirred?
Ooh. You know, before 1962, there was only one way to get a martini.
Really?
Yes, that was a gin martini stirred. That was it.
Huh.
It. But for some reason, Ian Fleming really liked his drinks super cold, so he wrote that into the character of James Bond. And he also oddly liked vodka, which was not a huge spirit at the time. And so he ended up creating what, up until the 60s, when you ordered a martini, they handed you gin and vermouth in a glass that had been stirred through ice. And as opposed to now, it's always shaken and it's always vodka.
Huh. Isn't that crazy? Look at that little nugget. So how do you prefer it, Frank?
I like it shaken over ice, so very cold with a thin slice of lemon peel with vodka.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Classic. So Bloody Marys, very popular morning cocktail, that and mimosas. Now we're seeing stuff like pizza slices and hamburgers putting on top of that. Is that a trend you like? I think I know the answer.
I feel like we're just gilding the lily. I don't even like Bloody Marys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Neither do I. I'm not a tomato guy.
I don't get it. If we're gonna drink in the morning, let's drink in the morning.
Yes.
Why are we zhuzhing it up?
I love zhuzh. That is my favorite verb of all time.
Frank's been listening to this show too much, which I love.
I love it. So you got to take out the produce. Like, take out the orange juice, take out the tomato juice, just drink.
I know. I don't need a meal in my drink. Just give me my finger foods and my booze. I don't need it mixed.
Separate. You want to get them soggy? Like, come on.
I know.
Yeah.
Or if I'm insane enough, I would actually eat off like the high school lunch tray if it didn't look insane.
Just yet another nugget about Frank. All right. Another interesting question here, mainly because I came up with it. Is there a way to determine whether to have a drink on the rocks or straight up?
No, that just entirely depends on whether you want the drink cold or not. Like if you're getting...
Are there certain drinks that you should have on the rocks as opposed to straight up?
No, it's just personal preference on how cold you want it. Like if I want to sip say I have a really good scotch as opposed to just regular old Jack Daniels, I'll throw ice in the Jack Daniels because I want to sip on it for a while.
Yeah.
Hang out. But if it's a good scotch or something, no, just drink it the way God intended.
Okay. The way God intended.
Is he part of the Savoy book too? Is it a specific god? All right. Is there such a thing as an upscale shot?
No. Oh my God. No.
You're breaking Travis' heart. So a Jaeger bomb isn't an upscale shot when you mix like 12 of them together?
No, there is never a point where you're like, hey, let's do a round of shots, and that becomes classy.
Yeah.
You've never seen James Bond be like, let's get some Jaeger bombs going over here.
What happened to your British accent?
It became a Jersey accent.
There's no I mean, there's tasty ones and there's fun ones, but there's no like, oh yes, I'm at this $500 a plate function, and let's do a row of cherry bombs. Can we do that? Yeah. See, you laugh because it instantly made it worse.
Yeah. It doesn't sound good, Travis. I'm sorry.
Hey, I thought I'd try. But I knew deep down. Yeah, I was good at it.
You said, give me a 53 Dom Perignon. I'd be like, oh,
okay.
Wow.
That's a real baller.
I know. Because there's no way. I don't think the three of us could pull together enough money to buy a 53 Dom.
No. I've spent that money on what you see here in equipment. So.
I still think it's more.
It's
than
probably
that.
not.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But in that endeavor, I think we look at you. You got the quickest legs. Hey, they got to catch
all
you
right.
first.
Okay, that's true.
You just got to get your
That's
paw,
true.
you just get your paws on it. There we
We'll
go.
create a distraction.
Just burgle it. Like that's. I think we can make a very good distraction.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll do our part. It's about you.
It's up to me. That's what you're saying. So just put
Gotta
all the
limber
pressure
up.
on me.
Calisthenics.
Oy vey, look at this. How did the
Balls in your court.
Frank? What else should we know about mixed drinks? Like what are some drinks that we should never order if we're going to go to an upscale place? What's the drink you don't
Vodka
order?
cranberry.
Okay. I'll be so definitive about that too.
That's a popular
There was
one.
no hesitation.
It is the nectar of the douche.
Is there ever a situation where a guy could order a cranberry vodka?
No.
Okay.
No, we have long passed that. We have long passed. The worst sin of all is when the guy gets the cranberry flavored vodka with the cranberry juice in the.
It's double cran. I mean,
It's double cran.
All right, so no cranberry vodkas. Anything else? Is there something we shouldn't? If we're to walk into a nicer place, what do you not order?
Don't get a bottle of beer.
Okay.
I mean, it's all pretty obvious. If it has its own glass, it's probably a safe bet. Champagne, wine, martinis, any cocktail really that requires the cocktail glass, as we know is a martini glass, a rocks glass, a brandy snifter, anything that gets its own glass, you're probably okay with.
You're good with.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Unless
All right.
it's a really busy nightclub and you're all got the plastic cups, and who cares?
Then it doesn't matter. Then you can order the beer.
Yeah.
Or the Jaeger.
Or the cranberry vodka.
Just don't be the guy walking around with the red drink. We all know what you're doing. You're not fooling anybody with your red drink. We know what's going on in that cup.
I guess, can we name the episode? I was going back a few minutes here.
Yeah.
Nectar of the douche. If we spell it like German, like DEUTCSCH.
I was thinking the Bible reference would have been good too, but all right.
Yeah, you know what? That is a whole different word.
Yeah.
The nectar of the douche.
Ooh.
That is different.
I don't know.
That's what happens when the power goes out and you record a show
Late in the evening.
late into the evening, early hours of the morning. All right,
I
Frank.
mean, if you want to get Deutsche, we can talk about the
Okay.
Maginot Line or anything. You really.
It's great.
This is Frank Mucci, just a man about town. Frank, we promoting anything for you? Do we have anything to promote?
No.
All right. This man doesn't appear. This man does not appear on the internet anywhere. Okay, so
No, I work for the city. Who cares about me?
I do. Steve does.
I do. That's true.
Our viewers absolutely do. This is our third segment with you? Third, fourth?
Something like that.
Very nice.
And Trabs, I want to just throw out a quick find there. They're listeners.
Oh, well,
It's all right.
we are filming both.
We are. It's true. That's true. Oh, now Frank waving to the camera, not awkwardly. All right, Frank. Well, listen.
Well, I wave too. Now it's your turn.
Oh, God.
Get the trifecta going.
I'm not waving to the camera.
Steve, wave at the
Wave
camera.
at the camera.
Wave at the camera. Wave.
Yes. Frank Mucci, man about town, a.k.a. the Mooch. We appreciate the time, sir.
Glad to be here.
You all right there?
Startled me.
Every time. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
All right. Time for thank yous. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. No legs this week because we've already had a very long show.
Oh, it is 2:01.
It is 2:01 Monday morning. Happy Monday, Trabs.
Hi.
Took us a while to get this show in the books. Power outages, shows in the way, schedules lined up. Somehow, in basically a 3-hour window, we got 3 guests in and a couple of blocks done.
Hey, the grid needs to show more grit
I'm
and not
telling
go
you,
out.
it's-
It wasn't the grid. It was just really our track.
It was not good. Listen, I don't know what was the reason, but
I say our. I don't live
we
here.
say, yeah, you know, hey, listen, you had power outages out in the Rock too,
Yeah.
so it's insane. It's insane, and the weather wasn't even that bad, but it was hurricane, whatever.
Are you sure? I have no
I
idea.
don't know, man.
Probably, right?
There were tens of miles an hour of winds, and by the tens, I mean probably about 12 mile an hour winds coming through here.
I'm not a meteorologist. I'm such a meteorologist. So much meat.
All right, on that, let's go to thank yous. Our thanks to Matt Hauswirth of CNY Central. Our thanks to Eric Fawcett of Press Basketball, and wherever he's going to announce, I believe Monday now. Our thanks to Frank Mucci, the man about town, our version of the Mooch.
You're just making up things.
All right. Our thanks to the senior producer, Mitch Beluco. Our thanks to the executive producer for cooking in the dark tonight at Sports by Mom, which was a very impressive effort. Make sure you check out the show every Monday and or Tuesday. Download, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so that way you know when the show does come out in case we have to switch it up from time to time. Check out the Friday show every Friday/Saturday. Check out all the social media links at TBD_show, To Be Determined Show on Instagram, Facebook.com/ToBeDeterminedPod. Email the show, tbdmailman@gmail.com. You can check out all those on the website, ToBeDeterminedShow.com. Write us an email, let us know what you think of the website. Anything else, Trebs? We're just like zombies at this point. It's all right. Name of the game. We're going to power through it. All right. Later, boys.
Hi, Mom.